cars, I do believe, huh?
Yes, I believe that's the correct count. And like I said, the largest field we've had this season. And everybody that's a figure 8 racer is here.
We can call the national crowd for the Church Brothers Figure 8s the Super Bowl of the season here at Anderson Speedway as the green flag comes out. And Rod Phipps will lead us around, of course, along with Mark Getman from Markville.
Yes, Mark's been doing an outstanding job. He had a tremendous start to the season, winning the first 2 weeks. And we see 12 car there of Billy Riddle, who is a Thunder car racer in his first regular figure 8 start.
Figure 8 certainly up to speed as Mark Getman will lead us through the early part of the race.
And it certainly will not take long with 1 or 2 cars out there until we start having crossover action, as Getman just sees some of the slower cars already having to slow down for crossover.
But figure 8 racing is just so much better with a bigger field like we have tonight, and this event touted as the premier figure 8 race of the season, and so far it's living up to it.
Well, that's right, and Rod Phipps really putting the heat on Getman, and of course Gene Houston right there in 3rd place, just ready to strike at any time as we come down through the crossover. And you see Getman had to momentarily hit the binders, and that was enough to let Rod Phipps around it.
Watch Gene Houston pounce, I should say, if he can. Getman loose again, and can't afford too much of that with a guy like Gene Houston running 3rd.
Absolutely not, because Houston will be around him in the split of an eye. You know, he will be. Rod Phipps now, we saw there momentarily, Phipps now putting some distance on 2nd and 3rd already.
How difficult is it to Denny? You've seen him for years to snatch the lead away from Rod Phipps. It's hard, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's Rod is a very heavy competitor, and Rod is looking for his first national crown win. So, and he's in the lead right now. So, you know, it's going to take something to get around him, like, you know, car break or get hit or whatever.
Watch him come around now off of turn 2 on the bigger oval. Now we're going to switch cameras, so we won't see Phipps across. There he will. Race leader Rod Phipps. And what's fun about watching the leaders, how untentative they are at the crossover. Watch Phipps. There he comes, and he just won't even dwell for hardly at all before he'll cross through, as he probably is looking out the side of his eyes. I mean, he's incredible with his skills with this.
Well, we see some pretty heavy crossover action there in that shot. But Rod Phipps doing a nice job right now. He's driving the course beautifully, and but he's had some great teachers out there. I know he watches Jimmy Houston and Herb Reed and some of those other guys, and watches the line they run, and you can see the younger figure 8 drivers picking up on that too.
One of the other things about figure 8 racing, you have to watch more so than just what you're doing. You almost have to establish your own rhythm. As a race leader there, you see Phipps now as he comes from the top right of your screen and will cross right through and barely slowed down at all. Now there's some trouble up on the banking.
Yes, it looked like maybe Mike Quiggins or some of that. Yes, it is Mike Quiggins spinning in turn 4, and David Bronner in the 83 also stopping to keep from crashing in, and that's going to bring the first yellow here in the National Crown.
So we had a pretty good stretch here through the first 9 of 50 laps. Church Brothers figure 8s, the 50th time, the National Crown. And we've got more exciting action still ahead tonight from Anderson Speedway. Back again at Anderson Speedway, 50th time, National Crown for the Church Brothers figure 8s. Mike Miller and Denny Adams. Rod Phipps has been the man through the first 9 of 50 laps. Denny, I don't know about you. I'm enjoying this race. It's got an interesting early development to it, and we've got some of the absolute best competitors in contention here with Rod Phipps and Gene Houston 1 and 2.
Well, what I like so far about it is nobody is really pushing real hard. They're just running a nice, clean, easy race. And that generally makes for a great figure 8, as that means we'll have a great conclusion to it, you know, when it gets down to crunch time.
And 50 laps is a pretty good stretch. for these guys to maintain concentration, but as much as that, just to avoid the pitfalls that can certainly develop with the figure-8 racing.
We know, having talked to some of the figure-8 drivers before, as we see the lights out on the pace cars, so we get ready to come back racing. Having talked to some of the drivers before, as they come off the corner and they get about halfway around the corner, they have to start watching the crossover that early, you know, to see how it's going to set up, and they know whether they're going to have to speed up, slow down, or whatever to make the crossover.
Mark Getman now running second, as you can see, in the 84. Phipps, the race leader. Getman, the 84. Great veteran Gene Houston, as you say, 6-time former winner, is running third, and we have completed 10, and we're racing again.
And we see Ronnie Phipps now moving up into 4th place in the 31 car, our defending champion of this race and of the Church Brothers Figure 8 cars. And 21, Doug Riddle, who has came on board as of late in the last 2 or 3 weeks, now in 5th place, Mike. So we have some hot shoes right up there in the front of the pack.
It was 2 years ago that Doug Riddle won this, huh?
That's right. He won it on a last-second mishap in the crossover, and I think that happened at 1 lap to go, if my memory recalls right.
Big, very emotional win that night, as this event is really, it is obviously the biggest figure-8 race of the year for competitors here at Anderson Speedway, and Rod Phipps certainly likes where he is through the early part of the race, nearing 15 complete.
And Rod Phipps finding himself in a little bit of traffic now as the field there. You can see the speed shot coming off the crossover, and what an awesome place that is really to watch the race from. When I was a race fan and not the track announcer, I always liked to sit in turn 1 and watch them come off the bank, and that's a neat place to watch it.
No question about it. Honestly, I like to just move all the way around, but you're right. Turn 1 is great for both on the big track and with the figure-8s. At Anderson Speedway tonight, race leader is Rod Phipps, as you can see, in car number 1. Billy Riddle from Anderson trying to hold him off and not go a lap down, and that's not going to last, as Phipps is going to take him right there.
Now, Billy Riddle's really impressed me, as I looked to a while ago. Billy Riddle, a Thunder car racer, and this is his first regular figure-8 start. But what a race to make your first start in the National Crown.
He's making it tough, actually, to get around him, but now he will, with Mark Getman in car number 84, continues to run second. There we see the lead cars.
Problem with getting around Riddle really let Getman close the gap quite a bit, as Getman now is right up on the back bumper of Rod Phipps. You see some other cars having to maneuver the crossover there, as Rod Phipps comes once again down through the crossover to complete another lap.
Phipps really doesn't appear to be slowing hardly at all. He just has established that tempo that we talked about. Let's see how he plays it here. He'll come from the top left of your screen. Now we'll switch and get a face-on shot of the lead car, as he doesn't really get off the throttle much at all from our vantage point through this stretch in the Church Brothers Figure-8 National Crown 50-lapper.
Well, you get off the throttle, you know what happens. Mark Getman would be the new leader if you get off the throttle.
Exactly, and Rod Phipps not ready to do that. He is one of those guys, and you've seen it not just this season where he is the points leader, but in previous years he is very difficult to pass, although a little bit different with the 50 laps as opposed to some of the normal features with the Church Brothers Figure-8s. And it looks like we have a caution on the track now.
Yes, here on lap 18, looks like R.C. Cook in the 69 car possibly has let go, as we see him checked out, and possibility of oil being on the racetrack, so the yellow flag is out once again.
18 of 50 are complete. No change at the front as we parade with Rod Phipps, race leader. And we're going to go to break here at Anderson Speedway. More of the 50th running of the National Crown of the Church Brothers Figure-8 still ahead from Anderson Speedway. Welcome again to Anderson Speedway. Mike Miller, Denny Adams, tonight enjoying the 50th running of the National Crown for the Church Brothers figure eights. Rod Phipps has certainly maintained, had opened up a little bit of an advantage over Mark Getman in the 84. Getman from Markville, Indiana, but Gene Houston had hung at third, and unfortunately for Phipps, we had to go caution for a little bit here to clean up a little bit of spill on the track. Now we're about set to go racing again. Cautions really on this sort of thing are not a good thing for the race leader, right?
Well, especially if you have a little bit of a lead build-up, because then the lead's gone. But you know how
about Getman, Denny? Does he really have the experience to be much of a factor with Rod Phipps? What's your thoughts there?
Absolutely.
Okay, then.
Getman, like I said, won the first 2 races of the season, and we have seen time and time again that car be the fast qualifier for the season. So definitely Getman has every shot at winning this race.
Mark Getman way serious, and then with Gene Houston right at behind him. Certainly our top cars are very competitive and have been historically. Another great shot. There's that turn one, almost a speed shot as an effect with the figure eights here at Anderson. You gotta love that.
Well, you know what I think, we see these type of figure eight cars. We also see the Thunder Car figure eight cars.
Yep.
And you know, I think that what that's going to do for this division is just going to continue to build it and have more and more cars, and kind of already looking forward to the next National Crown, you know, with these Thunder Car drivers coming up.
Rod Phipps not worried about the future. He's concerned about the present, and that is race leadership as we near 21 laps complete, and we're heading for 50, and Rod Phipps really well positioned through the early part of the race, but we've seen that so often, and that's what makes the National Crown unique, is 50 laps, the longest race of the year for the figure eights, and that definitely changes the deal. It's almost like 2 events into one.
Well, it sure is. We have about half of the cars still on the lead lap, so at this point in time, you know, normally they run a 20-lap feature, and this 2 and, you know, double and a half again in the length. So the car has to be well prepared, the driver has to be well prepared, and it looks like we're going to have a great race with still half the field on the lead lap.
Leaders there, try to watch when you can second and third place. Mark Getman in the 84, Gene Houston in the 9. Houston is all over Getman, which buys Rod Phipps a lot of time.
Well, it certainly does, as I guarantee you, Houston will continue to be on Getman. All he wants is Getman to make one bobble, as we now at the halfway point, 25 down and 25 to go here in the Big Lots National Crown.
Race leader Rod Phipps comes off the turn, now heads down the crossover, makes his way up on the turn 1 of the oval. We'll watch him come off the top right of your screen, and no traffic in the crossover with the lead car, and the field has stretched out just about enough now, with enough of the field out of the event that it has come down, although only slightly more than halfway. There's about 4 or 5 cars here that are going to settle this issue, right?
I believe you're right. Like it appears like that our top 5 are the serious racers right now. And Herb Bruce out there in the 41 car, but he's not really been a factor in this race, as we've seen a little bit of smoke coming from his car. So,
and Gene Houston has taken over the 2nd spot. We don't see it on the camera look here, but Houston is running 2nd. There you see.
And it looks like Getman has fallen all the way to 4th.
Yep.
So he must have had a major bobble, as Houston raising a little dust there, as he thought one of the slower cars was going to be in the way in the crossover.
Well, this will be just a good traditional battle here now, with Rod Phipps, race leader, and a pretty clear track in front of him, but Houston just is going to try to reel him in, and this is going to be fun to watch.
And you notice when they come off the corner there down through the crossover, the 2 different lines that the racers take. Rod Phipps takes more of a middle track line, where Houston goes all the way to the edge of the track to dirt, as they come off there. You know, watch Phipps. See, he takes the middle of the track.
Yep.
And Houston, that time wasn't over quite as far as he normally races. But Houston, that's where he does a lot of passing, is coming off that turn 2 corner.
Phipps is so good in the other parts of the track that you're right. Houston tries to take it the shortest distance route, as we always talk about in racing, and obviously is a 6-time winner of this event and countless other figure 8 features in his career, has long proven the effectiveness of his racing style. With 31 of 50 complete. We're inside of 20 now, actually 18 laps remaining, and it's all about Rod Phipps and Gene Houston battling for top honors in the season's premier event, the National Crown.
Well, I know Rod Phipps certainly is not comfortable knowing who's behind him, as Gene Houston is he's just there until the checkered flag falls. It's kind of like you know, molasses catching flies. You just can't get away from Gene Houston.
Denny, you know, and what we need to convey actually to our viewers watching at home with the air conditioners just rumbling away is that temperatures in the car down on the track, realistically tonight, even at nighttime here, probably at about 120 or so, right?
Oh, I would imagine at least that high, yes. We a lot of times see drivers just suffer from heat exhaustion, and it has to be just nasty inside of there.
And it just has been a blistering day throughout, and a weekend here culminating with this National Crown here tonight. So these drivers really are earning their keep tonight as they go at it. Rod Phipps, Gene Houston, and of course the 31, Ronnie Phipps of Anderson, your top 3.
You know, Robert Phipps prepared cars that Ronnie and Rod drive are awesome race cars. They do a nice job. Gene Houston back in the saddle again after he took over his own car once again. And once Gene made that move, he just has been an animal this year.
Now you're Gene Houston, who's a pretty clean racer, always historically has been a clean racer. How do you set up Ronnie Phipps? Or you almost have to hope he makes a mistake?
Well, I'm sure that's what Houston's waiting on, for Ronnie to bobble a little bit. But you'll see Houston a lot right there coming off the corner as they went across the start-finish line.
Well, he's really pressuring him right now, isn't he?
He will go low on them, and then when they come to the second corner, he'll slingshot to the other side and try to make the pass on the inside. So,
all right.
He's a wily veteran.
We'll watch for some of that here.
Looking on down the low that time to see as he came off, and then right here is where he would slingshot to the outside had Phipps already not been there.
You know, if you really watch, you would think that Gene Houston has forced Rod Phipps maybe to change his preferred line a little bit. Huh?
I think he has, really. Phipps isn't running quite as smooth a lap as he was a while ago. He's a little bit more one-sided than the other side. And a while ago, Rod was just kind of like he was on a rail, you know, just kept the same line going. And now Houston's threw a little wrench in the works here.
10 to go. Leaders through the crossover now. 9 laps remaining as 3 of the traditional top competitors here in the figure 8s at Anderson Speedway, along with Mark Getman back in 4th in the 84. Getman somewhat by himself, but the top 3 nearly nose to tail.
As Getman's moved back into the picture, he can once again say he's part of that front-running group. Now here comes Houston trying to make the pass, but he won't get the job done there. He's on the wrong side then to make the pass, and it cost him a position. Ronnie Phipps now got around Houston.
That's what you talk about. Phipps just too much speed coming off the banking there, and watch to see if it develops again. No, it's not. Phipps won't let it happen a second time. Either that or Houston doesn't even want to go there.
I was kind of surprised that Houston tried to make that pass, because that's just the wrong side to pass on coming off that particular corner. And when you do that 9 times out of 10, you lose a position, and that's what happened.
Exactly. Now running 3rd, so it's Phipps, Houston, Getman, top 4, and I don't know how much will Ronnie race with Rod Phipps, or he'll let him go.
he won't let him go if he can keep from it. I guarantee you, Ronnie wants that win just as much as Rod does. Ronnie would love to defend his championship here in the National Crown.
Family feud here, huh?
Absolutely.
This is going to be good.
Yeah, when the green flag drops, the family stops, you know. And Rod is right there with that line that he had earlier. Now it seems like that he's kind of back on that rail again. But Ronnie, I guarantee you, will try to set him up as they come off the corners.
There come the leaders. And there's
that really turned Rod loose. Ronnie got crossways, and look at the lead now. Rod's able to get on him.
And it actually pushed him back toward Gene Houston, who will make trouble for him, certainly. So now Ronnie's going to have to hold his position now as Rod Phipps might be heading for a big victory here, Denny.
47 laps complete, 3 to go, Mike, as Rod Phipps certainly looking good now.
4 more trips through the crossover. He can make these clean. It'll be a big win for Rod Phipps.
And Michael, it looks like we have trouble on the racetrack now. As the cars begin to slow down, we see problems in the corner, and we'll see exactly what's going on, and we'll come back to the finish of the National Crown.
Racing is with Gene Houston holding it through most of the evening, then giving it up to Ronnie Phipps about 10 laps ago now, and they now are in second and third. Ronnie Phipps and Houston in that order. Nevertheless, green flies. We have 2 laps remaining.
We're heading toward the finish of the National Crown, and it's some serious racing going on now. Look at Gapman get around. Now look at that. Gapman tags Phipps, and Phipps gets T-boned by Mike Riddle Jr. And the sad part about this is, Mike, is we just hear race control was calling to restart back. So all that would not have had to happen.
Should not have had to happen, but nevertheless, it has, and we really can't assess how bad it is until the dust clears.
That's right, but it doesn't look good. We see neither car moving, and I would think with Ronnie Phipps running second in the race at the time of the mishap, he has looked both drivers out. That's not a pretty picture.
Nope, that is not a pretty picture, other than the fact that they're both apparently fine, but
that's the good part. Now you can see Ronnie Phipps says, my car is done. I've got to get out of this hot uniform.
You can tell they've been really brutalized with the heat that we've talked about.
And Ronnie Phipps
pointing out somebody there.
He might have been pointing at maybe the culprit that's sent him spinning. I'm not sure. But what a tough break for Ronnie, man. Ronnie had worked so hard to get up there and try to challenge for the lead, and now here all for nil as his night is apparently over, along with Mike Riddle Jr. in the 95 car.
We call it intense as the sun.
Opinions from other officials around the track, so it's not a guessing game.
It's another real part of the show here at Anderson Speedway, but the show now is the final 2 laps, and I think we're looking for the restart right here.
I believe we will. It looks like everybody's behaving themselves, and Houston gives Rod Phipps one final bump as they come off the corner.
Understand how hot it is for these drivers. Green flag is out.
Phipps with the pedal down and looking strong as they come off the corner. And Rod Phipps now running probably the biggest race of his career right now, as he now will take the white flag in the National Crown.
Taking that final lap with a 6-time winner right behind you.
Oh, I tell you, he has to feel the pressure of Gene Houston. Houston looking outside but knowing nothing's there. And Rod Phipps in that position drops low to protect it. And Rod Phipps wins the 50th Big Lots National Crown, Mike.
Great win for Rod Phipps. It took a little bit longer than may normally have with some late race cautions, but he's happy now, and he is certainly celebrating with the donut.
Is Rod Phipps coming home victorious for his very first National Crown win.
Hope we'll get a look at it here shortly with the camera work. There is a pretty good mob of people there waiting to come down onto the track and congratulate him. Just generally Much excitement there.
Ronnie Phipps reached in to congratulate Rod. And certainly one happy camper as you see the onslaught of people beginning to come down now that festivities are over at the track and racing's over. The track begins to swell.
Phipps certainly says, okay, I'll celebrate, but let me get this helmet and all that off. Denny, great night of racing. Congratulations to Rod Phipps. Great working with you again.
It's been great with you, Mike, and we certainly invite you back to the Anderson Speedway for more great racing.